Hello, everybody. I hope you are well. Welcome to 1111 True Crime. All right, you guys. So today we are going to really dig deep. The name of the video is IDAHO4, Avoiding Common Sense with Extreme Prejudice. I mean, when I was going over this and making it, it really started feeling like I was on some sort of an oxymoron true crime game show, where like I have the frat boys over here, I have BK over here. And I'm like, all right, you guys, the idea is to get away with the crime without doing the time, okay? So I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to give you multiple choice. I just want you to buzz in with your answer. So the destination of the crime is 9 miles away. Do you A, drive a white car with out-of-state plates to the vicinity and park in front of the crime? B, ride a black bicycle? Or C, in this scenario, you're an avid nighttime runner. Which is your choice? Yes, Brian, go ahead, Mr. Kohlberger. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Well, I'm an avid nighttime runner. So I get that answer, but something in my gut is telling me I should take the white car with the out-of-state plates and park it really close to the crime scene. Nah. Ding, ding, ding. Brat guys, why take a car, dude? Just like rent a motel and like walk over. Bing, bing, bing. Are you feeling me, you guys? I'm not trying to be facetious. It's like some warped view of how we would have to have this genius to get away with this crime in order not to have DNA all over. Like, I heard another YouTube creator say, like an orgy of evidence, right? He's either got to be really smart or he's got to be really stupid. But you can't have it both ways. Jill Kendall says, walk to the crime scene since I'm in walking distance. Natural Healing says, I walk and drove, in my opinion. I am going to probably overload your brain, so please get a blanket. Understand that this is in my brain and I have to unload it. And so if you have to come back to this video and take it in parts, there are 6 parts, I believe. But for the sake of me just running through this, I'm going to explain this the best I can with my understanding. So everything that I share with you is to the best of my knowledge. And this is not for entertainment purposes only. This is also for educational purposes. And I want to make that clear. The logistics. Why drive a car? BK is an avid, experienced night runner. First of all, his car is white, easily seen at night. It also has out-of-state license plates. Why wait to renew your license plate after the crime? Because when you're if you're worried that, if you get new plates, you're still getting new plates later. So why wouldn't you get them before the crime so that you fit in and you don't have these out-of-state plates with a white car in a completely different state? So why would you not renew your license plates sooner? That's bothering me. An out-of-state license plate is something that reminds me of the Gabby Petito case, where they recognized that it was a Florida license plate, and that's why they knew it was that vehicle. So having an out-of-state plate is very conspicuous, and I feel that would really be something that Kohlberger would think about, because he obviously is thinking about renewing the plates. He does it 5 days after the homicide. He knows, and I know, and you know, his car can be tracked easily on camera. And it's white, so it's going to stand out like a sore thumb in the dead of night. A car would also catch any evidence of the crime, and it would require cleanup, which would show evidence of a cleanup. So why even risk transferring evidence from the crime scene into a vehicle if you're in walking distance. Also, you'd have to park the car while you're committing the crime. So, you're now leaving your vehicle, and that's also leaving an opportunity for alerting any LE in the area. Remember, your car is white, you have out-of-state plates, and it's most likely running. I mean, you do want a fast getaway, right? Why drive around for cameras to capture you if you know your destination? Why not park in one spot so that you can keep your eyes on the victims? Why not park a quarter mile away and use binoculars? We all know a specific place where the trees are cut out that you could sit, and with a pair of binoculars, you'd have eyes on that place. Why would you park close to the crime scene? Why would you not, if you're going to park close to the crime scene, why not back up a little bit and maybe even rent a local motel so that you could leave your car, but only be a mile or a quarter mile away from the crime scene itself? BK is damn near a criminologist, or whatever you call him. He's got that doctorate in criminology and would be very, very aware of the risk that his own vehicle possesses, right? That it poses. No one has ID'd the driver of the white car alleged to BK, and no one knows who the driver was. No one has seen BK or caught him on camera or anyone else entering the home of 1122. No one has recorded the license plate of the white vehicle. So how do we know out of over 30,000 white Hyundai Elantras that were reported to the tip line that this one is BK's? There is no proof that that white car is Brian Kohlberger's. In fact, the car in the footage that we see appears to have tinted windows, which we know BK's car does not. My question is, why don't we see the DoorDash delivery guy, his car, when allegedly is coming from Pullman at the exact same time as BK? I say to you, why would BK, as an avid runner, drive his car when he's within running distance? Exactly. Natural Healing says ton of white cars just in the 11222 area. Sassafras says, I remember learning in driver's ed at 16 years old that red and white vehicles are the most likely to be pulled over. For sure, wouldn't be smart to drive a white vehicle to the crime. And might I add, Sassy, this is at night when white is one of the only shades, because it's not a color, that is identifiable. Okay? So red, brown, black all look the same. We've seen it in how many cases, right? We just got done watching the Soto case. You couldn't tell if it was a green, dark red, dark brown, or a black vehicle. Had that vehicle been white like Gabby Petito's van with out-of-state plate? Think of that. That stood out like a sore thumb. That's how they discovered where she was. When you think about it, Brian Kohlberger has a white vehicle with out-of-state plates. Ugh, makes my head hurt. No, Sherry, his mother doesn't own that vehicle. He owns that vehicle. And he also registered it, the license plate, in his name. Sassy says plates are usually renewed the same month you originally register the vehicle in your owner's name. Yeah, and this is only 5 days away. So, I mean, why would he have waited? Susan Rusco said, did they change the timeline from 3 to 4 a.m. because there were quite a few PDs in the area at 3? Woo! Bam! There's you a boom. Kathy Stacy says, if I myself is going to commit a crime, my car would be far away from the scene of the crime. Amen, sister. You are so brilliant. Susan Rusco says, no one has proven it was BK. That is true. Rose says, in their opinion, they set him up. Susan Rusco also added, there's no proof of the time of the horrors either. Juju B says, yes, I drove a red Z28 and definitely pulled over more for sure. Aw says, what about Major Payne with his strange, quote, undercover white car and clothes, except for his gloves? For all those guilters out there that are like, BK's guilty because his white car is seen all over. LA, all over the Linda Lane footage. Well, he ain't got no tinted windows, you guys, and there's a whole bunch of reasons why I can honestly say I don't really trust that footage. BK in the area 12 times previously. That's the subject. Brian happens to be very active at night, according to his neighbors, who accused him many times of being up all night and making a lot of noise, including vacuuming. So I bring that up because why would he be driving around at night? Well, he's an active person at night. Brian has given part of his alibi as driving around at night. And with that, I state that it is only part of his alibi. If you listen to Ann Taylor, she stated that they are trying to get the person to talk, right? She says, we're delayed on this. We have more to the story, but we can't get cooperation at this point. So somebody needs to cooperate. Brian is known for late night running. It's 9 miles away. So why would he be always driving in the area? I don't know. But he's up late at night. He likes to drive and he likes to run. Pullman, Washington, and Moscow, Idaho are around 10 miles apart. Frequenting any area within 10 miles of your home is average for most humans. They claim, I say they, but studies show that more accidents happen within 5 to 10 miles of your home than any other. If Brian is like normal people and drives within a 10-mile radius of his home, he would then be entering Moscow quite frequently. So 12 times at night or early morning. Brian is single and often ran or drove at night, most likely because he's not a real big people person. It's quieter. You can do more thinking. You can listen to your music. Many single people enjoy the nightlife. Allegedly, Brian says the shopping is better in Moscow. This actually may be where Brian liked to shop. Literally. It's 9 miles away. I checked it. My grocery store is 11.5 miles from my home, and there are much closer grocery stores. FBI cast report a false positive ping of Brian in Moscow near the 1122 King Road and admit that he wasn't there, which means to me, false positive provides reasonable doubt in the reliability of the method of knowledge and recovery and discovery. And finally, on this little topic of being in the area 12 times, BK was pinged and seen in the area of the murders within hours of the homicide, according to the piece of crap affidavit, the PCA, of Brett Ping. The truth is, BK was seen at a grocery store, not at the victim's home, 13 hours after at 5 p.m. on November 13, 2022. So if they're alleging that the crime took place at 4 a.m. and he's seen at his grocery store a little after 5 p.m., how can you claim that he is being seen and he's pinging really close to the crime just hours after it happened? I don't think so. When I'm looking at this, in the area 12 times previously, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Exactly, Sherry. Good point. Sherry Cross says, if they saw his white car on film, why didn't they see him getting out of it or in it? C.A. Bevanporden, hello. You don't vacuum at night. I understand that. That's you. I do vacuum at night. Fallon says, many people have trouble sleeping at night and are up doing things very late at night. And I'll add, even into the morning. I mean, if you're going to go by, if they stay up late at night, are more prone to crimes? Excuse me. I don't think so. Fallon also says that the people in the area agreed that best shopping is in Moscow. It's a common thing. That is true, Susan. Fry is only retiring to run for sheriff. Virgo22 says, was BK the only one out that night? Okay, here we go. Brian is an incel. This one's short, so you guys get ready. Put your words down. What do you think about Brian being an incel? What are your thoughts? That way I can read them when I'm done. All right, Brian is social, according to his neighbors. He's been speaking to them, and they also claim to have seen an Asian lady with him often at his own apartments. That doesn't fit an incel. There's also witnesses at a pool party that he attends to. Brian speaks to many single women in bathing suits and asks for their phone numbers and gets them both. Not something an incel is known for. Brian actually has been on dates, and there was a lady, need I remind you, that accused him of horrifically scaring her to death because he tried to tickle her. So he's not afraid to touch a girl, not afraid to flirt with a girl, not afraid to get a number, not afraid to approach women that are in nothing but a bikini at a big pool party full of people and get their numbers. BK went to a book signing surrounded by only women, sat in the front row comfortably. BK has sisters. Worst heard is that he stole one of his little sister's cell phones, or maybe she was older, I don't know. There's no abuse. There's no horror stories. There's no, he locked me in the basement and, skinned Buddy the dog. There's no stories. Apparently, he doesn't have a problem with his sister or any of his sisters. In fact, BK helped to save a female coworker's life that seemed to be having somewhat of a asthma attack or a heart attack or something. It was a coworker that started yelling for help, and the other person and Brian saved her life with other people. Why would an incel even want to participate in saving a life of a woman? We do have that woman that alleges that BK spied on her through her security cam that he installed. Where's the proof of that? Where's the proof that he spied on her? Why haven't we heard he had X amount of history of videos of women? No one has proven info to suggest that Brian was stalking any woman or anybody. There is absolutely no evidence that suggests that Brian was stalking anyone. And that's what I got on that. So on the subject of Brian as an incel, how does that work? He's not afraid of women, and he certainly can get their phone number. I'm just saying. Right, Kim Barnier says, nope, do not believe, because pool party got digits from 2. Right. Fallon says, if Brian's sheriff, he will be in charge of BK. You guys realize that? Think about that. That'd be creepy if that's true. That's horrifying. But Ro, if he's shy around women, he went up to him in the middle of allegedly 150 people attending a pool party, went over to 2 little hotties, engaged in full conversations, did some flirting, and got 2 numbers. They both gave him their number. Doesn't sound too shy to me. Oz says, in their opinion, they do not believe that they're looking for an incel in this case. Robin Davis Ducksworth says, how do we know Brian is weird or awkward? I would need to judge that myself. He doesn't look to be awkward just because he is smart, and be silent in court in this situation, the less he says, the better. But I have heard people say, how come he's not screaming, I'm innocent, I'm innocent? Y'all, you got ears in them jail cells? You don't know what that man is screaming out. He certainly doesn't have a microphone. He doesn't have a social platform. He doesn't have news broadcasters able to talk to him. There's a gag order in this case. The man cannot speak. So you cannot hold it against him. I don't want to hear it anymore. It doesn't work. Kieran Guy says the math ain't mathin'. So what do you think about Brian allegedly taking his phone and turning it off at 2:44 a.m. until 4 a.m.? Let's own up to it, you guys. So, because we have quite a few, we're nearing 18,000 subs and over 300 members. I mean, I'm not tooting our horn, but we are a growing, lovely family. Our 1111s, we know because the locals come onto our channel, and repetitively we see the statement over and over from random locals that report that the phone cell towers drop service in Pullman and Washington randomly, and sometimes for extended periods of time. There's also spots of radio dead, no signal. Like you don't get a signal. So without knowing where Brian is, we cannot say that his phone did not go into a dead zone. Another very obvious solution to this entire problem is, did his phone battery go dead? Did his phone simply die at 2:44 and he literally didn't get home until almost 4 o'clock where he had his charger? Because I do not have a charger in my car. Everybody's like, why? Main reason is because I don't really care. I've got my phone charged before I leave the house. Whether you believe it or not, that's your choice. But I promise you it's true. Now, BK is a smart guy, okay? He knows about things when it comes to evidence. He's not a dummy. I can't take this oxymoron personality that they're trying to push down my throat. Because he's proficient in the knowledge of the cloud and tracking, why would he take the phone at all? If we refer back to the 4chan, they suggested that the Brat Boys had left the phone literally behind, hooked up to YouTube, rolling footage. Why would BK not do that? Not even attempt, but rather take something that's like a calling card with him. And if BK is going to take a phone, why not take a burner phone and leave his phone back there at his apartment? His burner phone could be disposed of and none the wiser. And the big question, if we're to digest and try to assimilate the information that the state is force-feeding us with spoons of bullshit, why would BK take a phone at all? He's alone, right? There's no one else there to call before or after the murders because he's so lonely is why he committed the murders. Just thoughts, you guys, just thoughts. So on taking his cell phone and turning it off at 2:44 a.m., those are my thoughts. Michelle Atkins says, didn't they say the internet went down too? Yeah, in the very beginning, it was all over the place. Many of us remember it. That the internet was out at the University of Idaho from 11:30 p.m. until 6 a.m., which would mean cameras are down. Just saying. Sherry Cross believes he would have had a burner phone. I agree. Juju B says, well, awkward may be, though, it would take somewhat of an awkward person to get through so much school. So, some would even say a geek, in her opinion. Hello, Elena. Hello. You say they discovered it wasn't actually turned off. It was either in flight mode, no battery, or out of coverage, but was not switched off, allegedly. Denise Dunbar says a lot of people feel awkward in social situations, especially if you don't know anyone. That doesn't make him a criminal. Someone in LA wanted him out of the way. They didn't want him solving crimes. Juju says everyone has lines that they will not compromise nor cross if not forced to. Flossie Mage says, sure do remember hearing that the very first week about the internet being out. Correct. Hello, Nikki B. You say there was an awful lot of phones switched off that night. Whoa. Wow. Oh, bam, baby. Drop that Jack Dean little note. We have covered the cell phone turned off at 2:44. We have covered Brian being an incel. We have covered 12 times in the area previously. And we have covered why would you even drive your damn white car with out-of-state plates? So I think we should touch on BK's DNA is on the sheet found next to the victim. Are you ready? So get ready. Now, this one, you guys, goes into overdrive because there is so much to this. I do not promise this won't be a long video. Put in the comments what your thoughts are on BK's DNA on the sheet found next or under the victim. Trace touch DNA is transferable. It may have been cross-contaminated during actual evidence collection from the alleged suspect to the alleged item. Due to trace, touch DNA can be transferred from another person other than the ID of the DNA. So it could be anybody, and it still be Brian Kohlberger's DNA on the sheath. Trace, also known as touch DNA, does not place anyone at a location. It does not mean Brian Kohlberger has ever stepped foot in that house at all. By definition, trace, aka touch, aka transferable DNA, is a mobile source of DNA that can be transferred from one person to another, as well as through air. all kinds of ways. And so therefore, no matter where you find trace or touch DNA, it is never a guarantee or an admission of guilt in any court proceeding, because it could allegedly be carried in by someone else. Wounds of the victims were described by the coroner as big open gouges, which does not sound like a K-bar knife, which is what allegedly the sheath would match. The victim's father claimed the victim's wounds don't match up, suggesting either multiple weapons or multiple attackers. K-bar knife is a common knife used for camping, fishing, and available to all general public. The murder weapon has not been found and has not been connected to the sheath. So at this point, we do not have an establishment directly connecting the sheath to the murder weapon at all. Dawn Daniels' search warrant for BK's apartment, she reported looking for knife and sheath. Need I remind you, if they've already found the sheath, why are they still looking for the sheath? Victims also owned large utility knives similar to K-bars. How do we know that the sheath originally did not belong to a victim who tried to pull a weapon to defend themselves? If the killer dropped the knife sheath while changing, why would he or she be changing in the first victim's rooms? No one would carry the knife sheath along. So in other words, if we are to believe, according to L.E., that Kaylee and Maddie were the first victims, the assailant would be undoing their belt to have dropped the knife sheath. If we're going with logic, that would seem that they were changing their clothing, as though the crime had already been committed. Yet, we still have 2 more victims that will be attacked in Ellie's scenario. And so in that situation, I ask you, why would the knife sheath not be found closer to the last victims? So in this case, it kind of leads me to believe that either the perpetrators came back upstairs a second time to change their clothes and then go back downstairs to leave out the sliding glass door, which does not make sense to return to the crime so quickly when you haven't even left it, or it actually might be, as they say, a tell of allegedly someone planting the sheath without thinking through the scenario. DNA on the metal snap degrades within hours. How did they get DNA days, let alone weeks later, for all these genetic testing places? Why did L.E. report different sightings of the sheath location? One law officer says it was underneath a victim. The other law officer says by the victim. If it was underneath a victim, how did you see it? Wouldn't the body be laying on it? Why would the FBI, the fake Bureau of Investigation, hide the paperwork that would provide the map that shows they are proving they did their tests, that would lock that trace DNA to Brian? Why hide that? Oh, and by the way, I think I figured out what really tipped off L.E. to Brian, and I've never heard anybody say it, and it made me sit still in my chair for about 5 minutes and just process it, and I'm like, yep. So that will be coming out in the next video, and that will be Wednesday for you guys at the normal time. All right, you guys. Why not investigate the other 3 unidentified male DNAs found within the home? How does L.E. know that there aren't others involved in the crime? And then the last thing on the DNA on the sheath. First responders on the scene. Main focus of the sticker gate with questionable moral actions that may have been flexible to planting the sheath, allegedly. They showed, allegedly, that they'll lie and cover for each other as Team Blue Boys, in my opinion. So, when it comes to the DNA that is on that sheath, which is trace, aka touch, aka transferable DNA, remember, it does not put anybody specifically in that location. Michelle Adkins says, they said one weapon was K-bar. Did they say what the other weapons were used on the victims? Maybe golf club? Ooh, good question. Kim Barnier believes, in her opinion, planted 100% first responders or possibly Payne himself. Susan Roscoe says on the button nothing was said about it being on the leather. And why would there be no blood on that leather if it's under a victim? It does sound like a machete. Flossie Mae and Sarah both said that. True, Ro. Very good. You say we don't know if it was a K-bar. Was in a glove out front. That's true. Joanne says, how did law enforcement see the logo on the sheath if it was found snap side face down per Payne? Fallon says, at first of case, one FBI had said sheath under E, but changed by LE. That's what I'm telling you. What if they did find a sheath with actually the unknown male DNA on it under E? What if they were like, uh-oh, that tracks back to a very elite. We've got to be super, super careful here. We need to point it to an out-of-state boy. Just asking. Kohlberger had victims' IDs. Here we go. Get ready to voice your opinion on this. I'll make sure and read it. Here we go. Inventory item number 35 states ID in glove in box. It does not say who was ID. It does not state what type of glove. Perhaps it was an ID glove, which is a small pocket-sized holder. And it does not connect Kohlberger to any victim, nor does the ID state that it was any victims. And it does not seem to be incriminating at all. That's what I got. I mean, it's simple. That's all there is to that. Virgo 22 says there were a lot of out-of-state persons that night for the football game. Oh, that is true, too. That is true. But from Pennsylvania? Flossie Mae says, I don't believe it was any of the victims. Pretty sure they would have said if it was. Good point. Boom. Could have been his old school ID, says Kim Barnier. That could be, too. I agree. If it was the victims, I'm sure we would have heard about it by now. Other than Jennifer Coppin. BK was stalking the victims. Now, I got my own little big boom for you guys. And I want you to make sure that this boom gets heard by everybody, because this is an important damn boom. Now, the only information that we have that there were stalking, that BK was stalking social media, came from Steve and we'll just say Kaylee's family. All right? That's all we got, because the defense has declared no connection to the victims. So I'm going to take a second here, and I'm going to give you a little Monty Python skit. It's very short. That's going to get to my point real quick. So they're about to burn a witch at the stake. And the guy says to the mob that has the pitchforks and the burning torches that are ready to burn her at the stake, he says, wait. How do we know she is a witch? How do we know she is a witch? And the guy in the back screams out, she turned me into a newt. I'm going to let you sit on that a minute. When nobody, it brought dead silence to the skit, and everybody just kind of looked at him in his human form there. And he kind of mumbled under his breath, well, I got better. But my point is this. If BK liked the victim's post on social media and was following them, and then it disappeared, like they claim, he was already arrested when they knew to look him up. How would Brian then delete that connection? Who deleted it? Because it wasn't Brian. So you follow me? If Brian is arrested and they say to the Gonsalves, here's the dude's name that we arrested, and they're the very first people, humans, to ever hear the name even, and they go run over and they look at this cloud information or whatever they have of the phone records to look at all this on their victims, and they see BK is liking them, and then they say, we can't produce it because it disappeared. How the hell did he delete it from prison or from jail? I'm just asking. I'll say it again, you guys. If Gonsalveses are telephoned by the cops and they're like, All right, you guys are the first to know. We've arrested the dude that did this. His name is Brian Kohlberger. And as they claim, they ran over to social media to see if Brian Kohlberger was following the girls and liking messages. And he was. And that's what they said. But they also claimed that disappeared later. And they don't have it to prove anymore. They didn't get screenshots before it went away. How did Brian delete that? How would Brian delete Kaylee's LinkedIn? Good question, Ro. Good question. Kim Barnier says, same person who deleted Katie's LinkedIn. I'm just asking. Michaela Miller says, that's a great point. Juju B says, wow, right, not rocket science. Laugh my ass off. Interior Family says, I wonder if LE made the post disappear. Well, how could the defense then make the claim that there is no social media connection if the LE are aware of it, you guys? Because you damn sure bet that prosecution would shove that right up the defense's nose and be like, look, he's following them and he's making comments and he's liking these girls. But that has not happened. So why would LE delete it? Sarah Fagan says, I don't think BK did it. If it was deleted while he is in prison jail, that should tell them that it was a fake account. Exactly. Thank you. Yeah. Like Joanne says, oh yeah, Bill Thompson, he'd be all over that. All over that. BK would be charged because it was a fake account. Correct. Exactly, you guys. Michaela Miller says, yeah, I highly doubt he's using the net in prison. Here we go. No DNA or evidence found. Now, I'm not talking about the sheath. I've already told you why I just don't buy the sheath. It's trace DNA, it's touch DNA, it's transferable DNA. But here we go. None of Maddie's DNA, none of Kaylee's DNA, none of Ethan's DNA or Xana's DNA was found in any of BK's automobiles or his parents or his apartment or his office or his parents' home. No victim DNA. Not only that, there was no cross DNA. So anytime murders are committed, homicides are committed, it's quite often that there's a cross-contamination between hair loss of the killer or something like that, where they get cross DNA mixed in with the kill, or skin from the victim, from the attacker or whatever under the victim's nails. There's none. In fact, there's no BK evidence or DNA, and I say evidence or DNA, there could have been a shoe print in the house, right? Something. But there's nothing. There's no DNA or evidence inside the victim's home other than the sheath. No evidence outside of the victim's home that matches Kohlberger whatsoever that we've heard of. We have a latent shoe print, size 10, when BK wears a size 13. The evidence doesn't fit the suspect. There are three other male DNAs that are unknown, unidentified DNA from the home inside the murder house. I'm asking you now, why was Ethan's golf clubs held in evidence? Because we've gotten to the bottom of it, that some of the clubs were held in evidence, allegedly. And I'm asking you now, are the clubs what hold the unknown male DNA? And why did they not find any trophies or souvenirs found physically or digitally on Brian Kohlberger? Nothing? Absolutely nothing digital? He didn't search how to do anything? There's no physical evidence that shows him at his house or in his car or any of that. The only thing is that little DNA transferable on the sheath. There's absolutely no digital evidence that links him to the crime whatsoever. None. If you want to be like, oh, those phone pings, I already covered that crap. You'd be 5 miles within that home, and you're most likely going to be using their tower. And trust me, there's motels, there are grocery stores. Those girls could have walked home from that downtown. So, the guilters would have me and you to believe that Brian Kohlberger cleaned up all the DNA. Let me explain this to you. Brian Kohlberger had no access to that house, the murder house, after a few seconds, a few minutes after committing the homicides. He had no access to the exterior of the home either. And if he did clean up all that DNA, anywhere else, in his car or home or any of that, luminol would have detected the cleaners used and also trace amounts of DNA and blood. Why use random numbers to represent the actual numbers when talking about the DNA match with Kohlberger? I mean, why say 7,070,000 chance compared to how many loci, which would be a much lower number, such as, was it 13 out of 21? Was it 7 out of 21? Was it 20 out of 21? I mean, the number is 21 by FBI standards. So, how many loci match 21? Don't give us 7 gazillion numbers. We don't need it. It's unnecessary. Keep it simple. And was it a partial match or was it a full sample? Why use father's DNA instead of mitochondrial DNA, which comes from the mother, which is a quadzillion 70 times stronger and much more accurate? I don't get that. Why did FBI allegedly dirty delete the IgG paper trail, the paper that shows the map that explains how Kohlberger is even a match? Important. I say this because, remember, Don Daniels was looking for a sheath still when they were arresting Kohlberger. And it's also important because if all they did is get a sheath and they did not have DNA at that point, then guess what? It's likely and easily plantable as touch, trace, transferable DNA to make sure that they get their target suspect, in my opinion. Now, some people are going to come at me on that one. And I'm just going to tell you now, I really do believe, in my humble opinion, that in the Delphi case and in the Kohlberger case, the FBI has dirty deleted. Just my opinion. I don't want to hear it. Don't hit me. I won't listen to it. Kamau says, I seriously think BK said things to Ellie that he knew there was shady stuff going on with the brats when he was applying for jobs. Ellie is ruled by that college. They want him framed for this, in my opinion. I had never thought of that. Aw says, who pulls higher ranking, the Sigma X legacy parents, the school, or Ellie? These are some excellent questions. Virgo 22 does say they must have something in order to keep him this long. What are you talking about? Okay. They must have something in order to keep him this long. Well, I hate to tell you this, dear, but even if you're innocent, he waived his right to a speedy trial. This trial could take 30 years. Just saying. It's just, I can't believe he did it. Susan Rusco said in 8 minutes, according to their timeline, it was 8 minutes or 12. Don't think he had time to clean up. Cindy Newfield would like to know how is enrollment doing at Moscow University. It's up, according to what they're saying. Stabby BK says, I always wondered, wouldn't they have BK's fingerprints from when he applied for the Ellie job? I mean, I remember Ellie fingerprinting us in grade school. Boom! Nikki B says, I think it all falls like this. Sherry Cross says, dirty deleted? Absolutely, in my opinion. Yvonne says, ISP lab states if it was touch DNA sample, all of it is consumed to do the STR profile for CODIS. Nothing left to send for an SNP profile. Boom! Oh my gosh, Yvonne Poole, you nailed it. You guys are incredible. You're so brilliant. You amaze me. You amaze me. Together, we're unstoppable. Denise Dunbar says it could be transfer DNA as well, lifted from a desk, a coffee cup, then transferred to the snap. The lack of victim DNA or cross proves to me that it was planted after the blood on the scene dried. Nikki B says business support the justice system. Justice supports the police force. Police support the university, and the university supports the brats and sorority groups. True train coming through. Transfer and touch DNA is exactly the same thing. Thank you. That is true. Jujubee says, and also maybe DNA to check before entering some of his degrees. May be done in class setting to get an understanding of how it's done. Just add idea with the fingerprint. That's excellent. But keep in mind, they do not have Brian Kohlberger's fingerprint anywhere in evidence at all. It is simply skin cells, okay, underneath the button sheath. So there's no print. Because remember how I went so hard? I'm like, why would there not be a thumbprint? It's a button snap. And they're like, no, it was cleaned. They only find DNA where his skin cells went under the button. That's where it was. And I'm like, oh, okay. BK bought coveralls and a knife on Amazon. Are you all ready? This is a very short one. That's right, Stephen A. Smash that like button, you guys. Smash it hard. Give me justice for the IDAHO4. That's right. Okay, you guys. BK bought coveralls and knife on Amazon. Give me your thoughts. Tell me what you think on this, you guys. What exact knife did BK purchase? And when was it purchased? How long ago? I need to know that. We don't even know if he purchased a K-bar knife. We simply know it was a knife. And even if it was a K-bar knife, was it like the day before the crime? Was it like 2 days before the crime? Or was it like last year? Or you guys, think about it. You're Christmas shopping. How do we know that that knife isn't going to be given to his dad for Christmas? That's when you do. November and October are Christmas months. I hate to sound like, well, I can't believe she even suggested that. But that's a fact. That's when you buy Christmas things. And I can't tell you how many knives I bought my dad. Or ties. Or cologne. Or hunting, whatever. I'm just saying. Now, also, remember, K-bar knives are extremely common to the general public and can be purchased and owned and are purchased and owned by millions of men and women all over the world right now. So, what does that prove? If he bought a knife or not? Purchasing clothes, even if it was overalls or coveralls, who the hell cares? Well, they didn't find it in the inventory. Then how do you know he didn't give it as a gift to someone? Again, we're at Christmas time. We're at Thanksgiving time. We just got done with, all kinds of things going on. We don't know why somebody doesn't have it. I have bought plenty of shirts. And if you went looking in my closet, you're like, where are they all? Well, that's what I give to all my grandkids. Or that's what I give to all my friends for Christmas. We don't know why somebody doesn't have it. Doesn't make them guilty of homicide. And when purchasing clothes, even if it is black clothes that they were all like, get everything black Kohlberger owns and get it in evidence right now. Why would he wear black to get out of a white car? Talk about a silhouette on that night. Are you kidding me? Stephen A. says it's suspicious to me they didn't find a fingerprint on the sheath. I agree. Sarah Fagan says anyone can order stuff online with any name. All you need is a gift card. Why wouldn't he have done that? Why not get a gift card and go buy your murder clothes? Why just outright put them on your own name, your own card? I can't. It's like he would have to be an oxymoron. He's a walking oxymoron. It doesn't work. He's not this stupid and made it through the school. Even if you didn't have common sense, you would have enough book smarts to be able to plan not to drive your white car and get out of it in a black outfit. Shouldn't they be looking for more than one knife? Great question, Sherry. Why not? You heard, we've heard that these wounds don't match. The points of damage don't match. Sassy says, strange that we are supposed to believe that BK is the guilty one, yet he is dang near the only one we haven't seen posing in a picture with a knife. Boom! Somebody is going to hit me for hitting the boom too much. Sorry, you guys. I'm not trying to blow your eardrums. It's just exciting when you hear these real serious thoughts that make absolute sense when we've had nothing, not even common sense in this case. Savvy BK says, you can't tell me not one of the victims, especially the girls, there wasn't any of the killer's DNA under their fingernails, especially if they fought back. So why is BK's DNA not found there? And this is not something the guilters ever want to talk about. So BK had no interior surveillance. None. He didn't know anything about the inside of that place unless he Googled it and could see the layout. But even that, listen to this. He did not know if there was a security system within the home, including alarms, an actual security system that would call the police and alert the police. He did not know if or where cameras were in the home, and he did not know if they had a guard dog. Number 2, personal protection. He was not in the home. He had no direct connection to the victims. Therefore, it's highly doubtful that he would know if the victims had a gun in the home, had knives in the home, had bats in the home, were capable of self-defense with self-defense training, owned a legal stun gun, or had mace or bear spray. He was entering blind, as I said in a few videos back. BK had no knowledge of who would be there within the home, as he did not leave his home until 2:44 a.m. and had no eyes on the home prior to who went in the house when, where, how. He had no knowledge of the victims. He had no knowledge if the subjects would even be there, or if they would be awake, or if they would be having a giant party. The family says the doors were locked. How did Kohlberger get in? If the slider lock was broken, Kohlberger must have just known that in the short amount of time that he had, that he would have to break the lock in order to get into the home, and that no one would call 911 when they heard the sounds, or that he would be attacked by a dog. He just knew he could break the slider lock and that it would go really quickly and he could get in and still do the crime and then come all the way back down through that slider and get out, and that no interference would happen. He left at least one witness to ID his bushy eyebrows. Why? And don't say, well, he probably didn't know she was there. Allegedly, according to the rookie law enforcement, Brett Payne, according to his piece of crap, I'm sorry, I keep doing that, his PCA, it states that DM, the surviving witness, allegedly was screaming up the stairs at the killer. So you damn sure know that somebody's awake. How would BK know the location or the number of the sleeping persons in this timing of 8 minutes that nobody's going to call 911 when he doesn't know where anybody's sleeping exactly, because he just left his house at 2:44? He has no idea if they've all piled in one room, or if this person is having a guest for the night, or if they're scattered out. He doesn't know if he's got 12 people or if he's got one person. So that's kind of weird to me, right? Then BK would have to have interacted with the dog, according to the piece of crap. Damn, I wish I'd quit doing that. Bullshit. PCA of Brett Payne's report that DM heard the dog interacting with allegedly the suspect upstairs. So, how did Brian manage to get in his car and go to his home and all over his office and his parents' home and never have a dog hair on him? Just asking. And then the roommates allegedly were texting themselves, each other, and that's being used to determine when the crime ended, right? Yet LE is alleging that their suspect, Brian Kohlberger, would have already been on the road for approximately somewhere around 6 minutes. So even their own timeline is obscured. Why would BK's actions be so unplanned and self-risk motivated? Sherry Cross says, I would not trust the coroner. Juju B says, and would you think a knife would definitely become dull after using it so many times? Says it's like abandon all logic and convict BK. That's why I started this off with that dumb little scenario of the whole like ding 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 and game show theory, because it's like these are some of the stupidest things I've ever heard a person do before a crime. Sarah Pagan says, can we even trust what the coroner says? Maybe she is lying about the wounds. Just my opinion. You could be right, lovely. Robin Davis Duxbury says, piece of crap sounds about right terminology to me. Oh, Lord. It's scary to think Cindy could be right. The maniacs could still be out there. Juju Bees believes that Ethan's wounds were blunt force, and she believes it could have been the golf clubs. And I'm wanting to know, on those golf clubs, that they have an evidence, allegedly, where at least one, if not more, of the unknown male DNAs was found. Is that it? Is that it? Oxymoron. He planned the perfect crime, BK. No DNA or crime evidence anywhere but on a sheath. And that's very weak with this trace that he allegedly dropped. He took his own white car without a state license plates, bringing his own real cell phone along for the ride, having no interior surveillance or knowledge of the security or occupants at the random time of the homicides, but a mastermind at committing the crimes without removing any victim's DNA with him and not leaving his DNA behind. Music time for my lovelies. I love you all to the moon and back. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And yes, I'm going to go tend to my baby. Love you guys. I'm coming, Gretchen.